Hey guys, Happy New Year to everybody. This is my first video of 2017 and it's January 1st. It's raining, it's dark, and I want something really comforting. And to me, comfort is pasta. It always has been, and I found this great new recipe. It's out of the New Savory magazine, and it's a quick bolognese sauce. Now, normally a bolognese sauce cooks and it cooks and it cooks. This is a quick version of that, so it's not going to cook all day, but I am going to let it simmer for a little bit. So you're going to need 1 packet of fettuccine. You're going to need 2 strips of bacon, a tablespoon of olive oil, a cup of diced onion, 2 minced garlic cloves, a pound of lean ground beef. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of dry white wine. You're going to need a can of crushed tomatoes. You're going to need 2 cups of frozen peas that have been thawed. We're going to add ricotta, and we're going to add a 1/2 cup of Parmesan to finish it. I'm not actually going to be adding that to it because, like I said, I'm going to let it sit for a little bit. And of course, you know, I've got to tweak it up a little bit. So we're just going to add the 2 tablespoons of olive oil, which is twice around the pot. We're going to let that come up to a boil, or a boil, olive oil. We're just going to let that heat up a little bit. To that, we're going to add the bacon. And I just want to render some of that fat out. And the pan was preheated, so you can already hear it start to sizzle. And I'm just going to let it cook a little bit before adding some other things to it. Because as you add things to it, it's going to lower the temperature. So we want that temperature to stay nice and high. I'm going to put my 2 cloves of garlic in. And again, you want to move quickly once you start putting the garlic in because you don't want that to burn. Once it burns, it gets bitter, and that's just not a good taste in anybody's book. To that now, we're going to add the onions. And since I'm going to let it cook a little bit after what I'm supposed to, I'm not really worried about them getting cooked all the way through. You just want to get them cooked to a nice translucent state. A little bit. Now, to my tomato sauce, or to my crushed tomatoes, I should say, I added some basil, I added some oregano, and I added some powdered garlic. And I just opened up the can. And I dumped it in and I stirred it up and let it sit there. So that actually is marrying to the tomatoes, crushed tomatoes, as it's sitting. And we just want to let this saute a little bit. Today I'm using my Dutch oven, but this could have been done in a cast iron, or you could do it in a crock pot if you want to let it sit. You can even do this in a heavy-duty saucepan if you're going to be using it right away. I'm going to add the tomato paste. Again, I use mine in a tube. That way you can just squeeze out what you want. So that looks like 2 tablespoons to me. To me it does. Stir that in, just get it cooking a little bit. We don't want any of that raw tomato taste. To this, we're going to add our ground beef. Just break it up a little bit so it browns on all sides. The smaller you break your beef up, the more cooking surface it has. So it's going to brown quicker that way. Now, I had a pack of cremini mushrooms left over from Christmas. I'm going to add it into this. Cremini's mushrooms normally go in a bolognese. It didn't call it for that, but I'm going to add it in. It's going to give it a little bit of an earthy flavor, a little bit of meatiness to it, that the bacon and that will go well with the bacon and the hamburger. Again, you never want to salt your mushrooms in the beginning. That will draw water out and nothing will brown. And it's when the mushrooms get nice and brown that they have the flavor to it. Must be smelling good. Caesar's come into the kitchen to see what's going on. Clean up a little bit as we go. Now I'm going to add in the 1/4 cup of the dry white wine. And I can smell the garlic, I can smell the bacon, I can smell the onions, and now that wine just perfumes the air just a little bit. Few more seconds. Now, like I said, this is a quick version of a bolognese. A regular bolognese, you would get your onions, you would get your garlic, you would get your carrots, you would get your celery. Sweat them down, let them cook for a little bit of time, and then you would start adding your layers to it. By adding the tomato paste, by adding the crushed tomatoes with the herbs already in it, we're cheating just a little bit. It's a quick version of that. Again, I'm going to let this sit on the stove for a while. I'm going to turn it on low, unlike the recipe says, because, well, why would I follow a recipe? We're going to add the tomatoes to that. Stir that well, get everything incorporated. At this point in time, I'm just going to add a little bit of fresh basil because I had some. And we don't want that to go to waste. Give that a stir. I'm going to add in my defrosted peas. best way to defrost something, whether it's peas or shrimp, is with cold water. If it's something that's loose, you can let the cold water run over it, like your peas or your shrimp. But I've already had to defrost meat and fish, and what you want to do is fill your sink with cold water and set it in there, and it slowly comes up to room temperature. When you do it quick, like with hot water or in a microwave, is when you breed bacteria, and who wants to eat food with bacteria? So what we would do now is let that cook for a few minutes over there until everything comes together. Then you would add pull it off the heat, add your ricotta cheese to it. Again, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let this cook a little bit because I have some things I want to accomplish. So once you add the ricotta to it, you're going to dish it out, top it with Parmesan cheese. Again, people, this is something you could do. It's very, very simple. I'm turning down the heat because now it needs to go low and slow because I can already hear it starting to come to a boil. Folks, stay stylish. Do this for yourself. Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you soon.